Namaste, everyone. Thank you, Vibha ji. In this Diwali festive season, we extend our greetings and we are here to share the light of the Master with all. On behalf of Ananda Sangha and Vibha ji and myself, extend a warm welcome to all of you. Jai Guru. Over to you, Vibha ji.
Jai Guru. So, uh, I've taken a reading from the life of Swami Kirananji from with Paramhansa Yogananji, The New Path. He has written in the chapter 21, the topic is Paramhansa Yogananji, where all the disciples have gathered to celebrate the birthday of Swami Yogananji. So you can visualize the scenario. It's a birthday, kind of a banquet happening, and Yogananji's birthday is being celebrated. And here he shares his thoughts, deep thoughts on a personal vein. Yogananji says, and Swami Kriyanand writes, on January 5, the disciples gathered at Mount Washington to celebrate Paramhansa Yogananji's birthday. As the function began, we went up to him individually and knelt for his blessings. After a banquet, later he spoke of his longing to see an awakening of divine love throughout the world. In a more personal vein, he continued, I never dreamt during my first years of teaching in this country that such a fellow feeling in God's love would be possible here. It exists only because you have lived up to the ideals that I have cherished and for which I lived in the company of my great Guru. He goes on to say, Paramhansa Yogananji, friendship in God surely was the key to our relationship with Him. It implied no easy relationship such as worldly people enjoy with each other, but demanded of us rather the utmost that we had to give. The friendship our Guru extended to us was to our souls. To reciprocate in kind meant to strive unceasingly to meet Him on that divine level. Those who clung to the desire for ego gratification could not coax from Him a compromise in the pure quality of His friendship. If a disciple flattered him, Master would gaze at him quietly as if to say, I will not desecrate the love I bear for you by accepting this level of communication. Always, he held out to us the highest ideal to which each one of us might aspire. Such perfect love imposes the most demanding of all disciplines, for ultimately it asks nothing less of the disciple than the total gift to God of himself. I used to pray to Master, teach me to love you as you love me. Don't we all have that prayer from Master? Teach us to love you as much as you love us. Chatting with a group of us one day after hours in the main office, he looked at me penetratingly and said, how can the little cup expect to hold the whole ocean of love? First, it has to expand and become as big as the ocean. The Indian scriptures state that when the soul has released its hold on the egoic individuality, it merges with the ocean, becoming one with it. While most of us loved Master from varying degrees of ego identification, his love for us was without limit, indeed cosmic. To ordinary human beings, such love is inconceivable. I killed Yogananda long ago, he used to say. No one dwells in this temple now but God. His love for us was God's love manifested through his human form. Whenever I look at your normal ones said to Master in a note, I see only the Divine Mother. Then behave accordingly, Master replied with his impersonal calmness when they met the next day. Yogananda was the humblest man I ever knew, yet it was humility only in the sense that there was no ego there at all. Not in the sense that his manner was self deprecating. Indeed, when someone once praised him for his humility, I recall the simple answer that he gave: how can there be humility when there is no consciousness of ego? In a sense, our relationship with Him was not only a friendship in God, but with God, whose love alone He expressed to us. Always with firm resolution, He turned towards the divine all the love we gave Him. Whenever we touched his feet in the manner customary among Indian disciples to their guru, he held his right hand reverentially at his forehead, extending the fingers upward to indicate that he directed our devotion to God. And if anyone's affection for him displayed the slightest attachment, he often became distant and reserved until that person had understood it was God's love alone that he extended to us. The reading has said that the people interacted with Swami Yogananji at the different development evolution of the egoic energy within them. So, more expanding on that the topics today is importance of friendship. When we talk about importance of friendship, there are different levels of friendship, and how do those different levels of friendship emerge? We'll go a little deeper in that aspect of the different levels of friendship. Paramhansa Yogananda said, friendship is the purest of all love. In the love of parents for children, there is compulsion. In filial love, there is compulsion. In the love of lover, there is compulsion. But in friendship, there is no compulsion. I would like to make an important point here that there is a correlation between ego's evolutionary progress within us, progress of our own ego, which is also a divine energy. So there is a correlation between the ego's evolutionary progress within us and the human relationships it forms. There is a correlation between these two aspects. It takes many lifetimes for the ego to evolve to a point where we can enjoy mature, loving friendship. At times we wonder that I want to be friends with them, or I want to be like that person and like the kind of friendships he forms. Many a times I'm far away from Swami Yogananda, but when I used to look at him, he was so kind, he was so gentle in his relationships, and I wondered how has he achieved it? Reading more and trying to research more on the levels of the friendship, I understood that the friendships are directly related to the level of our ego consciousness development evolution. The level of the evolution of ego that we are today, we can make friendships on the same frequency. Where we are in our ego expansion, our friendships will be of the same level. They can't be different because that's what we manifest. The frequencies of ego and friendship are in harmony. So, at a given phase of our lives, we are a mix of these four levels of friendships, which are driven from the levels of ego evolution. there are 4 stages of the ego evolution. The very first one, as we may have heard in the caste system, is called the Shudra. I was quite amazed, or quite I was smiling when I was reading that level of the friendship is compared to a Shudra. When soul first enters the physical body, the first time it is called the Shudra phase. It's just a dot of spark of divine there. But the individual at the Shudra stage relates to others in the terms of how they can satisfy their physical need for food, shelter, and sex. That's the Shudra stage of a human evolution. And friends, while I'm saying this in your heart, we may all think, okay, I've gotten past that. I'm over. I'm done. I know all of us are sitting here and we all have evolved spiritually and we say, okay, move on, Vibhaji, move on. We are done. But actually, that we have gotten over it, but a dot of it always exists within us. There is no possibility of Shudra to relate meaningfully with others. Traces of give and take are impossible at the stage of the Shudra. We can see traces of Shudra manifesting even in those who have become very successful. A dot of Shudra exists there. As they experience the consequences of their selfish attitudes, the Shudra attitude of the friendship, and attitudes and actions, they become tired of loneliness and isolation that these attitudes bring, and they begin to desire for meaningful relationships and friendships. Shudras rarely create a family. So our level of ego and our level of friendship is like a dot when we are at the stage of the Shudra evolution, when we are looking for everything just for myself. And for myself also, only food, shelter, sex, that's it. I don't need anything else. That's the dot. And sometimes during the day in our lives, we act like a Shudra. Okay, I've got my stuff, I'm done. We're actually not done. God has brought us here to say, you began from there, but from where you began, you're not done there. So, okay, so we are evolving from there. But Shudra has a spine. He'll pull you back. Now we've got to have a spine which is stronger than that and say, no, I'm going to go higher. So what's the next stage? The next stage of the ego evolution is Vaishya. A next stage of the friendship evolution is of Vaishya, where the relationships are based on the attitude of the reciprocity. I will scratch your back if you scratch mine. Vaishyas value their relationships with others for what they can get from them in the form of money, prestige, and power. At this stage, pure, selfless friendship is rare. For wealth, position, they can betray their friends. Vaishya's ego broadens its self-identity to include a life partner and children. Their self-identity is expanded enough, they want to have a family. But at the same time, they're more centered. As it says, they can betray their friends for their own expansion of their wealth and their possessions. With passing incarnations progressively, Vaishya is drawn to enlarge its definition of family beyond its original narrow identification, which says us for and no more. It goes beyond that. With advancement, the ego broadens. I win, you lose to win-win attitude. In every transaction, the Vaishya begins with I win, you lose, means of the pie 100% is mine, you might take 1 or 2%. And then he realizes, he learns at the level of the ego and relating to the frequency of the friendships that we form, we realize that if we share more, if we give more, our expansion, our friendships are stronger. When our friendships are stronger, we are joyful. Nobody can exist in isolation like a dot and say, I need nothing from you. I've got everything here and I'm happy. He can't be. She can't be. We need people for our expansion and for our growth. So the Vashya starts growing and starts understanding the formula of win win. Make your friends grow and you grow with them. Make your environment purer and cleaner and you grow with them. Now, the third stage is with Kshatriya, where selfless friendship, unconditional love are able to blossom fully. Their ego is capable of finding satisfaction in helping others and motivated by pure joy and sacrificing their own comfort. Kshatriya is mentally respectful and compassionate when interacting with the Vaishya and Shudra. He doesn't have the ego to say, well, they still need to grow up a little more to be able to interact with me. They think it's their prime duty to raise their level of consciousness along with them. The last stage of the friendship or the egoic is the Brahmins, where the Brahmins have no expectations and they think for a person of Brahmin's consciousness, all human relationships are divine. They interact with each other at the divine level. So the point I'm trying to make here, friends, is that all of us at any stage of our lives are a mix of these 4 levels of friendships, 4 levels of ego evolution. Calling it Shudra, calling it Vaishya, calling it Kshatriya and Brahmin. But we are here. We keep reincarnating to change that mix. We have to find in ourselves, we have to discover that we have to keep raising the proportion of the Brahmin and Kshatriya within us more and more and reduce the Vaishya and the Shudra part. We may have begun with number 1 and 2, number 1 and 2, 80 and 20 and 5 there of the Brahmin and the Kshatriya. We need to raise that bar. We need to be more Brahmin, and I would say more Kshatriya, feeling joyful in helping others to grow. When others grow with us, we grow with them. There's a story of Swami Yogananda when the mother used to give him the treat. He used to think that I will eat the whole treat myself, but the mother said, you share it with the others. And in the beginning, he felt hurt, thinking the mother doesn't love me, and that's why she's saying to share the treat with the others. What if the friends eat up the whole treat and I get nothing? But one day he said, let me test it out, and he shared his treat with the others. When he shared, and when he saw the joy in the eyes of the other friends when they were eating that treat, he realized that the joy in the eyes of the friends was far greater than the joy he would have experienced by eating the treat alone. So as we are evolving in our egoic search, as we are evolving in making the level of the friendship, friends, be aware we are mix of these 4 and we have to keep raising the quantum, the proportion, the percentages of the Brahmin and Kshatriyas within us. And that's the purpose of this importance of friendship. What level of friendships are we forming? Are these friendships just to go out and coffee and have fun? Or are these friendships there to evolve us? What kind of friends are we making? There are many more aspects of this talk that can be covered, but maybe we'll have a satsang on that. Now I invite Cheena ji.
Thank you, Vibhaji, for giving us this very beautiful perspective of the level of ego, having this corresponding influence on the level of friendships that we form. That's so beautiful. Thank you. Friends, I'll touch on another aspect of the importance of friendship. Now, we all know we start our prayers with Heavenly Father, Divine Mother, friend, beloved God. So we're addressing the divine as our friend, the divine friend. In every prayer, we address God and gurus as our friend. Now, who are friends? Vibhaji has given beautiful, explanation based on the ego evolution. Here I'll say that friends, firstly, we should look at the word from where it originated. The word friend, I was doing some research and I found that the word friend has originated from the old English word that is friend. Friend. And that means loving one, loving one. That is why we did the affirmation also on love. Now, we have many friends, of course. We can just uh, scan the friends that we are having and just take a look, firstly, as to the friends that we have. Is there pure, intense, tender, unconditional love that you receive from them all the time? The answer is invariably no. You don't receive friends. Have friends which are always pouring out their heart's love to you and, unconditionally and all of that. It's not true. It's not there because human love is deceptive. Human love at a certain level, as Vibhaji has explained, that we all have those, Shudra, Vaishya, Kshatriya, Brahman, the mix of that ego in us. And that is why we behave in that particular way when we interact with people. Now, our search for a true friend may take not just this lifetime, but many incarnations. And we still may not find any human being who can give us that kind of love or to whom we can give, and have that mutual friendship. And it's this divine friendship. But there is a secret lying within us. God has shown to us. Everything is evident in nature. It's not that God is hiding anything from us. He has shown that there are two best friends right within us. Each one of us, whatever we are in the present world, each one of us has those two best friends. And these are our breath and our mind. They are the best of buddies. Right from the birth of a baby, this friendship, this bond between the breath and the mind begins to sing this song of friendship. And they are in tune with each other. The saga begins right from there with a cry, the first cry of the baby. And it is important, friends, to also know that our breath, as we feel it going in and out of our body, it has a corresponding relation with the state of our mind because they are the two best friends God has given us. He has shown us. And we have to now understand how to have the divine friendship of God through this bond of mind and breath. Now, friends, if you go a little deeper, just to understand more scientifically, the breath and the mind relationship, this is a beautiful relationship. But there is, this understanding that mind is driven by ego consciousness, as Vibhaji has explained. Isn't it right? Mind is driven by the ego, by ego consciousness, by the state of the ego that we are in, the level of ego that we are at. Mind is driven by ego consciousness, that energy. It is all a play of energy, isn't it? But on the other hand, what is breath governed by? What is breath? The tangible breath that moves in and out of a body. What is that driven by? It is driven by the life force energy, the pranic energy, which is moving, through our pranic channels, the nadis, right? Now, there is this correlation. So just as breath and mind are buddies, the same way, we have the ego conscious state, the ego, and the life force energy as being intimately related to each other, intimately. Now, in this materialistic world, as you know, that as our energy gets pulled down and out into the various sense gratifications, what happens is that there are unending desires, there are unending attachments. And because of that, we ride these waves of delusion, happiness, sadness, health, disease, life, death, all of that is happening, it's coming to us. Nothing is permanent, it's all transient. Now, the pace and the quality of our breath, if you just sit quietly and analyze what is the pace, what is the quality of my breath going in and out of my body. Friends, it's dependent on what? The mind state, at what, level of restness your mind is at any given point of time. Now, if there is a ruffled mind, for example, disturbed mind, full of negativity, you're having negative thoughts of jealousy and hatred for someone, do you think your breath will be calm? No. It's a friend of the mind. And the breath will be short, will be fast. Your heart will race, when negative thoughts are coming or doing something, bad. And in the same way, restlessness of the mind, as I said, is something which is a very common experience for all of us because it is very difficult to control our anger, get agitated for small things. And when this happens, our breath is affected. Our breath becomes fast. And on the other hand, if we replace negative thoughts with positive thoughts, if we do good for others, if we share our things with others, if we do some nishkam karma, selfless service, or if we meditate, what happens? Our mind gets rested. Why? Because the breath also slows down, becomes long and deep. Your mind is rested, your breath is calmer. So see this intimate relationship between the breath and the mind. Now, the uncontrolled mind therefore dictates the pace of breath. That is the formula. But if one friend listens to the other, even the other should listen. Isn't it? Which means the reverse is true. The mind must listen to the breath. That is what the yogis discovered. That is what the science of pranayama is. Pranayama, control of prana, the life force energy. And it begins with the breath, the exercises, the techniques of pranayama. And as you know, Kriya technique is a very special pranayama. And Yogananda ji has also said that to know God, you must practice pranayama. To know God, you must practice pranayama. Because with the practice of pranayama, what will happen is you will be able to control your mind. Mind has that, monkey tendency, going everywhere and not giving peace to us. So to control that drunken monkey mind, it's not just a monkey, it's a drunken monkey mind. To control that, it is important to integrate pranayama in our life. Now, let us also have another question asked, and that is that are we this body alone? Because we're talking of breath and the mind and our inner realities, as I said, about the life force energy, which is corresponding to the ego consciousness in us. But we are not this body. We are souls on a human journey, isn't it? Which means that the soul here is silently looking for that eternal joy, that peace of God consciousness, infinite spirit, all the time. It's yearning Our souls are yearning for that. So, what happens is that when we meditate, the key is meditation. When we have with us our soul yearning for the infinite spirit, and we are able to practice the techniques of a guru, the guru given meditation techniques, we are able to raise our consciousness. And at the point between the eyebrows, what happens is we are able to feel that concentrated energy, which actually gives us feeling of eternal joy, happiness. It is a seat of divine wisdom. Therefore, we can translate, friends, the friendship between the mind and the breath, or the soul and the spirit, or the ego consciousness and the life force energy to the physical plane, which is the disciple and the guru relationship. This is the most sacred part. This is how, we can understand the sacred bond between the disciple and the guru. It is a soul yearning for eternal joy. And who can give us? No one can give us. Human love is deceptive. We can never be happy in this world. But when we practice the teachings of a self-realized master, then we understand how to raise that energy and allow our soul to unite with the infinite consciousness of God. So who is our best friend? The guru whose teachings help us unite with the light of God. He makes us Brahma. That fourth level of ego consciousness, that state Vibhaji was talking about. He's helped us to take us to that state, that level of friendship, which is the Brahman, where we are one with God. He is our best friend, isn't it? And as I said, it is by practicing his teachings. It is by following, eternal dharma, doing selfless service, pouring our heart's love, and having the spiritual qualities, of acceptance, tolerance, forgiveness, all of that. Living a spiritual life, following the yamas and niyamas, and that you all know that how integrated, all of these things can help us to be more and more attuned with the consciousness of our Guru. And once that happens, the Guru is always waiting for us. The Guru is always wanting us to come and be blessed by his light. It is we who are not receptive. So the whole thing comes down to our own openness of the heart, receptivity to the Guru's light, so that he can change us. He can change us, friends, from Shudra to Vaishya, Vaishya to Kshatriya, Kshatriya to Brahman, the state of Brahman, where ego is zero. It is decimated. And then there is no difference between us and God, because we become one with infinite light. Here, I would also like to say, friends, that as just a small story I'd like to share, we have some time, that when my daughter was very young, and she was very fond of making some greeting cards. Once I came home and I saw that she was making a card for a friend. She was just about 6-7 years old at that time. And I asked her that, what are you doing? And she showed me the card, very beautifully made. At the end, bottom, she had written BFF. And I asked her what that means. What are those letters for? She said, it is for best friend forever. I said, wow, you have a best friend forever? At such a young age. I didn't have any BFF at that time. But today I can say with confidence that I have a BFF. Paramhansa Yogananda ji is my best friend forever, because his teachings, his guidance, every moment of our lives, I can feel, and sure all of you can feel who are practicing Kriya or any of the techniques of the master and following Sanatana Dharma. It really, really changes you. And then you can say, I have a BFF. And I think, Vibha ji? Thank you. Jai Guru.
That was a beautiful sharing. So, we all know that we got to have a best friend in our lives, and our best friend in our lives is our Guru who's guiding our spiritual journey.
Healing prayer, friends, keeping our spine straight. Offer this prayer, Divine Mother, thou art omnipresent, thou art in all thy children. Manifest thy healing presence in all bodies, all minds, and in all souls. Visualizing everywhere, friends, loved ones, Guru Bhais, Ananda centers, all truth seekers everywhere. Let's radiate divine light to all. Rubbing our hands and chanting Om 3 times, raising our hand. Light into the world. Om. Om. Divine Mother, may thy love shine forever on the sanctuary of our devotion, and may we be able to awaken thy love in all hearts. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you, friends. Thank you, Vibha.
Thank you, friends. Joy to be together. We'll meet you again soon. Go with joy, with Master's friendship in our hearts.